changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Motivational Monday, and I'm going to talk to you today about one of my favorite topics, speaking up, even when it's a little scary to do so. I get in a lot of trouble myself for speaking up, but I think it's worth it. And I'm going to talk to you today about two high school girls who spoke up in an effort to protect other kids. And one of those kids happened to be me. So here's what happened to me at the beginning of my senior year of high school. I was in an honors English class, and the teacher, Mr. Davis, was the head of the English department. And one day he made a pronouncement. You may not use the word symbolism or symbolic in my classroom. So this seemed ridiculous to me. I mean, I know kids overused the word symbolic in class, but they were there to learn, so instead of banning the word, why couldn't Mr. Davis just teach us the proper usage of the word symbolic? So I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, and I was a very good student and, a good girl, but I raised my hand and I said, Mr. Davis, there are times when the word symbolic is appropriate, so can you just teach us when we are allowed to say the word? And then I gave an example from a poem that we had just read in class where I thought that maybe the word symbolic was appropriate. And Mr. Davis freaked out and kicked me out of class. And because he was the head of the English department, he said I couldn't come back to his class and no other English teacher could take me. So there I was, a senior who was not going to graduate because we were required to take 4 years of English. It was a New York State requirement. So I was not going to graduate from high school. Everyone was afraid of Mr. Davis, and he was a bit of a tyrant. And so I went weeks without attending any English class. And then finally, my very pretty mother got dressed up and met with the principal and flirted a bit and pointed out to the principal that I was applying to Harvard. I had not actually committed a felony. And maybe he could find a way to get me back into an English class so I could graduate from high school. And they worked out a compromise, and they found another English teacher who was willing to take me on probation, juvenile delinquent that I was. It was pretty unbelievable that I was being treated like a juvenile delinquent because I said the word symbolic. Anyway, I spent the rest of the year with my new English teacher, happily reading Tolstoy and Dostoevsky and other classic literature, and writing essays that contained lots of naughty words such as symbolic, metaphor, and simile. So here's what bothered me more than Mr. Davis acting like a jerk. What really bothered me was that a large number of my classmates came up to me after I was kicked out of that class and told me I was right. But not a single one of them had the courage to stand up to that teacher with me. If we had all been kicked out by Mr. Davis, I think things would have gone a lot better, and maybe he would have been forced to behave like a reasonable person in the future instead of the tyrant that he was. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King had a quote. He said, "A time comes when silence is betrayal." Now, he was talking about something important, of course, the struggle for civil rights. But this still applies to other things. Silence is betrayal. Even though it was only English class and not an important struggle, I did feel betrayed by all of my silent classmates. And that's why I admired another high school girl named Alexis Streb, who wrote a story called Speaking Up that we published in Chicken Soup for the Soul just for teenagers. Alexis had often seen kids making fun of the kids who were different, but she had never intervened. And then her little brother was diagnosed with autism, and Alexis's family got educated and got involved with helping the little brother. They even moved and changed schools more than once, looking for the right kind of school for him. So Alexis became more knowledgeable about kids with differences, and she was still afraid to intervene in any major way, but she would speak up a little when she saw kids making fun of the kids who were different. And then one day when Alexis was at another new school, and she was one of the new kids, she was in band practice, and she heard the teacher say this to the band, "Guys, we're playing like the kids on the short bus. Come on." Well, if you don't know what the short bus is, it means that smaller bus that sometimes goes and picks up the special education kids right in their own driveways. So that's what the teacher was talking about when she talked about the kids on the short bus. And Alexis couldn't believe that a teacher had said this. All the kids in the classroom were laughing, but Alexis raised her hand, and even though she was terribly embarrassed and her face was bright red, and she was the new kid, she told off that teacher. She said, "I don't think we should make fun of the short bus, because there are a lot of people on that bus who have great personalities and have the same feelings we do. I know some people on those buses, and they are some of the most caring, sweetest, and smartest people, so I would appreciate it if you didn't make fun of them." That teacher immediately apologized. And even though some of the other kids were staring at Alexis, she felt pretty good. She says, "While everyone in the classroom was being a follower, I had decided to take a different path." Thanks for listening to me get on my soapbox again today about speaking up, but I think it's important. There are so many times we keep quiet and we regret it later. Tomorrow we're going in a different direction on Tip Tuesday. I'm going to share some tips with you that will help you get the most out of every minute of your day. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. I'd love it if you would help me spread the word by telling your friends. You can also rate and review the podcast on our iTunes page. And if you'd like to read more from our book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Just for Teenagers, which, by the way, makes a wonderful graduation gift, then please go to our website, chickensoup.com.